Most Outstanding Player of the 1981 NCAA Tournament, a national champion with the Hoosiers, Hall of Famer, one of the NBA's 50 all-time greatest players, and now the president of the New York Liberty, Isiah Thomas, kind enough to spend a few minutes with us here in New York. And Isiah, thank you so much for coming by. It really means a lot to us. Tell us what it means to you to have the Big Ten in New York City.
I mean, it's great. You know, this is one of the largest markets in the country, and we never really had a chance to expand all market here. It's always been about the Big East. But when you're talking about the Big Ten, it was always Midwest. So having people get exposed to Big Ten basketball or Midwest basketball on the East Coast, I think it's been great, and I think it's been very interesting.
You spent a lot of time, obviously, in the professional game, but just this right here gives you a glimpse back in terms of the passion, the excitement. Take us back to high school and what it felt like being a high school player knowing you're going to become a Hoosier.
At that time, Indiana was just coming off of that great historical run with the undefeated season. Quinn Buckner was like, I mean, he was like God, you know, and having him come to the house to recruit me along with Coach Knight. And it came down to really Indiana, Iowa, DePaul, and Illinois. Those were my final four choices. But when Coach Knight came into the house and he started talking to my mom, he just totally ignored me, right?
Smart man.
Yeah, he just started talking to my mom, and before I knew it, my mom's eyes was kind of, you know, gleaming and everything, and I was like, oh no. And you know how kids nowadays, they pick up the hat and say, I've made my decision, I'm going to go to da-da-da school.
Right.
The day of the announcement, my mom goes, my son has made his decision. He's going to go to Indiana.
That's old school.
Yeah.
That is old school.
Oh, totally old school. But her and Coach Knight, you know, were like that. And, you know, it was very exciting time for me and for all of Chicago to have an opportunity for me to go to Indiana and play under Coach Knight.
What are the biggest lessons you learned from Coach Knight that still resonate with you today?
You know, he always said, you know, it's a thinking man's game, and mental is the physical as 4 is to 1. He taught you how to think the game. He reinforced the values that you had learned at home. With incredible freedom comes incredible discipline. We had no rules. We had no plays. But he made sure that you did the right thing. Education was preached. It was first. We all went to school. We all graduated at Indiana. And then we played basketball. So when you see it, when you saw us play out on the floor, it's very similar to the way Golden State is playing basketball right now. He believed in the concept that you play with perfect randomness. So teams can't predict your patterns of behavior, and that's how we tried to play. So he forced you to really think, communicate, articulate, and once you got outside of the game, those learning skills, those language skills, they really help you become a better person.
Now, so much of what you're talking about, they're foundational principles. Mm-hmm. And it's something that you see at the professional level. You're probably seeing less and less in terms of the guys coming into the game, some of the one-and-doners and such. But is that something that is undervalued in terms of what you're seeing with a guy like Yogi Ferrell, the improvement? They're foundational principles that he's going to take to the next level.
Yeah, it's absolutely undervalued, but it's appreciated in the NBA, and it's appreciated in the next level because it really is all about communication and chemistry. So what they really do look for are those foundational skills. And the first thing they ask, and the first question I always ask, is he coachable?
Yeah.
You know, can he follow directions? Can he implement a game plan? Can he sustain concentration for 2.5 hours without making a mistake? And if he can do all those things, then he's got a chance to play.
What's the advice you would give to players? And we see so many leave now after their freshman year. What is the advice you would give to someone looking to make that jump? Because you left early and succeeded, I would guess, beyond your wildest dreams. I mean, one of the greatest players in the history of the game, but I know it's not an easy transition.
It's not an easy transition, and you're right. I succeeded way beyond I never dreamed that I would have the type of career or the life that I'm living right now. But it's such a difficult decision because a lot of the kids who are making these decisions, and I was one of them, you're dealing with extreme poverty. So it's not like you're just making a basketball decision. You're really making a financial decision. And had I not been as poor as I was, or my family not been as poor as we were, I never would have left Indiana. I mean, I had it made. I got free food every day. I got to play basketball. You know, I was learning. I was in a great environment. I never wanted to leave, but because my hardship and my circumstances were so extreme, had I not left, who knows where my family would end up. I mean, really, we were hanging by a thread in terms of, there's the poverty line, we were below poverty. Had I not gone to the NBA and made money, who knows where that next generation would have gone. I got 2 nieces, got a couple of nephews, my kids. They've all graduated from Indiana University. Had I not, and none of them got a scholarship, so I paid full tuition. But that's what the game did for me. I was able to make sure that the second generation, next generation behind me, got a chance to be educated without sports.
We talk a lot about the game today in terms of it's slow at times, there's a little too much structure, but teams like the Golden State Warriors and the Spurs, in terms of that ball movement, are changing the way the college game's played. Are you noticing that more and more, especially with the way that teams implement the ball screen offense more than I've ever seen before?
Yeah, it's really going back to old school basketball. When we say old school basketball, we're talking about the great coaches that you used to have. And I always talk about Coach Knight, Dean Smith, Big House Games. They believed in what we used to call passing game. That was the offense. Everybody played passing game. You pass, you move, you cut, you set screen, and you read the situation. Those coaches understood how to teach that. Right now, we're getting new coaches. It is a nice chant. You have to respect it, right? But you got new coaches now who wasn't around to understand those fundamental principles of how you teach that style of play. So when you look at Popovich, who had Hank Egan as a coach, Bob Knight, you know, that type of passing game, tutelage tree that Popovich comes from. You look at Steve Kerr, who has a tree under Lute Olson. You know, I mean, so you're looking at how they think the game. And right now, that philosophical thought is coming back into the game in terms of passing, moving, cutting, screening, reading, reacting, playing without the ball. As Coach Knight would say, perfect randomness.
It sounds as if the game is almost getting more principle-based again, where it's kind of coming full circle, where it's gotten to the point where it got so structured that everything was a called set.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a layup in transition, you pull it out and you run zipper 2.
Yeah.
Or whatever the coach calls on the sidelines. It seems as if the game is really getting back to principles, foundational principles, and then read-react basketball.
Yeah. So those Hall of Fame coaches that we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Remember they came up with that KISS theory, keep it simple, stupid, right? And they did all this research, what a lot of these new coaches are going through now, and they're all coming back and they're saying, you know what, Coach Knight and them, those guys were right.
Yeah, they were right.
Dean Smith, you know, those guys were right. John McClendon, the way they played, you know, let's go back and do that.
They wore some bad jackets, but they were right.
Yeah.
What do you think of Tom Crean and the team he's put together? I know you talked a little bit about Yogi with Taylor earlier, but bigger picture, what do you think of this program now?
First of all, when he got the job and what he took over, I love the way he changed the program. And his first year, I would call him out there every game because, you know, we were getting hammered. And I would call him out there every game, and I would say, hang in there, coach, hang in there, coach. It's going to get better. Indiana is a great place to coach and play because he had never really experienced it. And when they beat Kentucky and they won on the last second shot, and Assembly Hall erupted, and I called him after the game and I said, that's how it feels to play and coach at Indiana. And I think what he's done since then, in terms of rebuilding the program, he's had a couple of lottery picks go in and out. What he's done with Yogi in terms of his growth, his maturation, and where they are right now. They started out a little shaky, But we knew once they got to the Big Ten, they would be all right. And right now they're on the top of the conference, and I love the way they're playing.
Isiah Thomas, the president of the New York Liberty. Isiah, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. Really appreciate it. Let's send it on over to Taylor. Thanks, Isiah.
Thank you.